Hey everyone! Welcome back to the first office hours of this year, 2023. I was gonna say 2022. My name is Marie, one of your dev roles here at K6.
I'm Paul. I'm another DevRel.
And I'm Stefan, a solutions engineer, and I definitely already arrived in 2023.
Yeah.
So, I guess before we go dive deeper about the topic, just talk about what we're actually gonna discuss today. Why don't you introduce a bit more, about yourself, Stefan? Like things like what do you actually do at Grafana, and like how long have you been with Grafana? Like all those
Right.
stuff.
Yeah, because I mean,
Yeah.
with a top or a title like solutions engineer, that means you have all the answers. So
Yes, absolutely. Solutions engineers are the experts in everything, in absolutely everything.
the
That's
answer
that's
is
a
always 42, right? It's-
exactly. No, that's not the case. Thankfully, we have a really good team, and everyone is specialized in different kinds of stuff. But I think we're starting at the end, so let's start at the beginning. I'm Stefan, solutions engineer. I'm based in Salzburg in Austria, and I joined Grafana Labs about 1.5 years ago when we were just very, very little, just after like very short, a few months after K6 and Grafana became one. So when I interviewed for Grafana, K6 wasn't part yet of Grafana Labs. But then when I joined, because I took a 3-month break, K6 was already part of Grafana. So really, really exciting. And yeah, what does a solutions engineer do? We are part of the whole sales team, the whole sales motion at Grafana, and the technical counterpart to our sales team. I'm going to meetings with the account executives, the sales team, trying to understand the customer's technical requirements. So in the first sense, to make sure that what they want to do is something that we can actually solve as a problem for them. What they want to do is achievable with Grafana Labs and K6 software. And on the other hand, since we have so much customer and prospect contact, we are also working with our engineering and our product management team closely to communicate the wishes of what our prospects and customers want to see if we can't do it already. And of course, I'm working with the sales team and account executives to make sure, or as we like to say, to keep the sales real, so that they are not promising stuff that, as I said, we can't really do.
now, is it all pre-sales for the most part?
Yes. I mean, I also work with existing customers, but mostly on the pre-sales part of existing customers. So if a customer is, because when I joined Grafana, like most of our prospects and customers know Grafana as the dashboard and visualization engine,
Right.
and I wasn't so much different. And then that's not the only thing we sell. So if a customer is a Grafana customer, then they can also become metrics, logs, traces, on-call, K6 now, like for quite a long time customer. So I'm working with them to get them onboarded on those kind of things as well. So pre-sales.
Yeah, that's funny. I know when I first started with Grafana, I didn't realize that there was other products in the stack either. It was like we do log aggregation. What? I had no idea.
Absolutely.
There's so many
Absolutely.
products now, and
Yeah.
I think now is the great time as well to let everyone know that if you want to join Grafana, and K6 as well. So if you notice, Stefan is wearing his Grafana hoodie. I've got my K6 mug, and Paul, you got a different looking mug. from
I have my
Grafana.
1-year anniversary mug.
Nice. Yeah.
I have 2 posters here and a hat. The Grafana logo is on this hat.
So if you want to join us, we've got a vacancy specifically for our K6 Chaos team. So we'll post the link for the job description. But yeah, basically we're looking for a Go engineer with a lot of focus around the community side, and we also have one other vacancy for a K6 engineering intern program for this year. So it sounds like a pretty new role. So just get in touch, with us. I've added the link to the different job adverts, or just feel free to talk to us via our Twitter accounts or social media accounts if you want to know more about this role. Cool. So I guess we can get started. To people who don't know what browser instrumentation is, because like our topic today is about how to do browser instrumentation with Grafana Faro. But before we talk about Grafana Faro and like the actual tooling, how would you explain browser instrumentation to someone who's new about it?
Mhm. It's quite simple, even if you haven't heard about it yet. So if you're in a monitoring space, or even if you're not in the monitoring space, typically what you monitor is infrastructure. You collect metrics and logs from your servers, from your Kubernetes clusters, whatever. You collect metrics, logs, and even traces from your application or from your application stack. And browser instrumentation is basically that part of the whole observability that just collects metrics, logs, and traces from everything that runs in the browser. So basically everything that's not running within your data center, but actually at the users that interact with your application. They run the code in their browsers, and they also create metrics, and they create logs, error logs, and they also create traces. And all of these things that happen in the browser basically is basically part of the browser instrumentation to create those metrics, logs, and traces.
Nice. And I guess, with all this importance now around observability, so it's not just the back end, side of things that we have to monitor, but also the actual browser, because this is what our user actually interacts with. So that really makes sense. So we were talking a while ago that Grafana has so many stacks, and now you've added another one called Grafana Faro. So yeah, what is it?
In the end, you also think about why another product, maybe Grafana Faro, after so many things are happening, and why browser instrumentation is important. Because before Grafana Faro, we couldn't really do that, at least not within our tool set. So browser instrumentation is really important, because some of the requests that a user sends from the browser, they don't really hit the backend where you typically start the monitoring, everything that runs in your data center or in a cloud within your private network. And if there's an error in a browser code, or if there's something wrong, or if the performance is really bad, and then the user, the potential customer, leaves your application, your web shop, for example, you wouldn't even notice that the user was there or that the user had a problem, because all of your typical dashboards show green, everything is working. There's no reason to act on things like this. So Grafana Faro solves parts of that issue to introduce user monitoring. What does a single user in their specific browser version, in their specific operating system, really do, and how does it affect the performance? What does the user see? How does the user experience basically the application? There's a bunch of metrics that can describe that are collected, are generated in the browser. And Faro is basically two things. So on the one hand, Faro is like an endpoint, because you need a specific or special endpoint for Faro to collect metrics and logs and traces in a special way. If you have an agent in your data center that sends metrics, logs, and traces to your metrics, logs, and traces backends, it's really easy because the agent always has the same IP address. But from a browser point of view, every user has a different IP address, every user has a different location and a set browser version and so on. So that becomes a challenge. And so Faro is on the one hand an endpoint that can handle different IP addresses and different kinds of loads from this point of view. And also Grafana Faro is the SDK that generates those metrics within your applications within the browser. So these two parts work together. That's basically the overview of what Faro is.
Well, that's pretty cool. I know in a past life, we tried to implement something similar with kind of like posting events from the client up to the back end service from the browser. So it's definitely, I know it's not a small feat. So
it's not. I mean, especially the tracing part. It's built upon OpenTelemetry, the browser instrumentation of OpenTelemetry, and it basically reuses that part for the tracing part. And the challenge to get so many traces from so many potentially hundreds, thousands, 10,000s of users from also that amount of different IP addresses is also one that is something that you need to think about from a security point of view.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes, just
to be more specific, the endpoint within your data center collecting infrastructure and application logs, it doesn't need to be publicly exposed. The endpoint for Faro needs to be publicly exposed.
Right.
That's the big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just had an observation because I think, both Grafana and K6, we are really trying to put, some importance around, that at the end of the day, the browsers is the place where, our users interact. Because we've got, for example, from Grafana, like the different products, and from K6, we started out as a load testing tool, mainly for the protocol level. But now, like it seems to be that we're, putting more emphasis on, like the browser importance, that the backend and the protocol is just one part of, this observability sort of view. So have you also felt the same like observation from your side, Stefan, like speaking to different clients as part of being a solutions engineer?
Absolutely. So not specifically from the load testing or the monitoring part, but since I started, and I said I started 1.5 years ago at Grafana Labs, the first half of this 1.5 years, I haven't heard about real user monitoring at all. And I don't know, the last few months and weeks, not everyone, but a lot of our prospects and customers seem to want to do this. So it's really at the pulse of time that tools like Faro or also K6 browser, which is the browser part of K6 that I will also use in my demo that I will show later, is really relevant. So it's not something that we just invented. I mean, real user monitoring is a thing for a long time, But bringing this to the Grafana stack is also really listening to our community and to our customers.
That's cool.
So I want to ask a question around, the type of metrics that Faro collects, because since it's mostly around, what the browser actually collects in terms of errors, logs, are the metrics different from what the other products collect? And can you expand a bit more as well as to what these different metrics are?
Yep, absolutely. So typically in an application, you want to collect red metrics. There's a bunch of frameworks for backend metrics collection, red or use, or the four golden signals. So that's very well defined. For the front end or the browser part, a lot of different things are actually relevant. Since there are so many browser types, so many browser versions, as I said, you can't really make, you can't really say that a specific number of requests can be handled, and that's fine because one browser can, another browser can't. And that's why there are so-called web vitals that were introduced. I don't know who introduced them, but they are kind of a thing in this community. I'm an expert in everything, as I said.
Solution engineer.
Thanks for bringing that up. These are three examples. I think in the Faro dashboard that our Faro engineering team built as part of the Faro experience, there's like two more web vitals there. But basically, they all say something about how fast the page loads its content, either the largest portion, like the largest picture, or the largest piece of text. Then if we go to the second one, FID, first input delay, it tells you something about when a page is still rendering and then a user feels like it can interact with the page, how long does it actually take until it really can the user can really interact with the page? And for all of these metrics, there is something that is defined as, okay, that's acceptable, that's good, or that's good, something that's acceptable in terms of seconds or milliseconds even. And then this is really poor performance. If it takes longer than, let's see, for example, for the first input delay, longer than 300 milliseconds until a user can interact with the page after he or she thought they can interact with the page, that's considered bad performance. And these web vitals are really important and very standardized. So I think even more standardized in terms of what they are and across applications, because that's really affecting the user experience. Whereas, for example, 10,000 requests per second can be a lot for some applications and not a lot for other applications. So it's really dependent on the scale, but this is really dependent on the user's browsers and the average of what they see and what it appears to be.
Yeah, as a traditional back-end developer, it's nice. I'll have to look at that. That's kind of interesting. Those golden signals for a browser client. So.
Yeah, they are measured for each single browser that interacts with the web page. So the first, for example, the first byte that is being loaded, or the time that it takes to load the first byte is not one of those three, but it's like the TTFB. It's also important, and it really depends on the time to first byte or the LCP FID. They're measured for each single user and for each single browser. And then you take the average or the 75 percentile or the 95 percentile. It's somewhat different to what you would do with the backend monitoring stuff.
Yeah, this is quite insightful, because I guess with Grafana Faro also using the Core Web Vitals, which is like the standard, it really gives that sort of like streamline measure when it comes to the different web performance metrics out there. So I'm quite excited to see the demo later to see how these different metrics are collected. And you mentioned that if we run it in different browsers as well, then it will report in different browsers. um,
Mhm.
so yeah, it's a really great additional product on top of what Grafana offers. So I'm going to ask you this question because we've talked about XK6 browser quite a few times during the office hours. And when you were because you basically created this video that you posted on Grafana social, and that was the first time I've seen this Grafana Faro and XK6 browser integration, and which is why we wanted you to be on this office hours. But
Mhm.
I'm more curious to know what was your impressions, or like what was your first thought of using XK6 browser?
Like a colleague of mine and I tried it out, a solutions engineering colleague, because we just always want to try the new things or the things that our companies, K6, Grafana Labs, produce, and we want to see, okay, how mature is it? How can we talk about this with our customers? Is it ready yet to be sold? What's the value that it can create for our customers? Really, that's the most important part. Can it create some value? And I think now the newest version, correct me if I'm wrong, is 06 XK6 browser 0.6. So it's like not even kind of released. It's in a development state.
Early,
And we were impressed how useful it is already at this point, because I mean, it's just something you can go out and use. And I think it's now, it wasn't possible when we created this demo, but you can even now run it in K6 Cloud. You also correct me if I'm wrong. You're the experts. Is it already possible to run XK6 browser in K6 Cloud?
Not yet as of today, but we're gonna plan to merge K6 browser, XK6 browser soon to K6 Core. And after that's done, then we're gonna try to offer like a sort of like a private beta to a limited customer so they can also test it out on K6 Cloud. But as of today, not yet. But that's in the actual plans.
Got
yeah,
it.
that's
Did I say something I wasn't allowed to say about? It wasn't a surprise, right?
no, yeah, yeah. Oh no.
No, it's all good. Yeah, we've documented this anyway as part of our roadmap, which is public.
Yeah, it's
Perfect.
really cool though too, that because I mean, so XK6 browser is using the same I guess experimental module process that we're using for some of the other extensions, like with the Prometheus output. So now with Prometheus, you don't even have to build a custom K6 any longer. So it's I don't know, following the same thing, and then but yeah, it's cool. It's K6 just keeps adding features, and it's pretty exciting, all the stuff that you can do.
Absolutely, absolutely. And to come back to the actual question, what was our experience?
I always take a tangent on things. So
Yeah, even though it's like not like fully released yet, and not even integrated in K6 Cloud, but soon, it really feels like something very useful. But on the other hand, there's also some things that just need some small tricks, and we're thankful for the K6 team to always help us with this. So this one I can show you maybe later. Just if you hover over a button in a browser, and then you want to click it, it's actually quite difficult to do if the button is not always visible. So if you really have to hover over a picture, then the button appears and then you click it. It's something that my colleague Emil figured out with the help of the K6 team, or the XK6 browser team. And we made it work by just moving the mouse to a specific location instead of searching the button with the button ID. And that worked out. Yeah. That was one workaround, but I think it's now also possible to make it to search that element with the ID, and so things like this. I think all of these things will get better. And another feedback, I think, when I also recorded the demo as a video, and when I showed it to the Faro and the XK6 browser team, I think they also noticed that XK6 browser was very verbosely logging some unnecessary errors. You will see it because I'm using the same old version, so maybe it's been fixed in a new version. But yeah, it's not really something that you would need as an output, but it's still in the command line when you run the test. But especially if you're someone technical and you want to run a nice browser test, it doesn't really diminish the fun of writing and running the tests.
Yeah, I guess from an integration perspective, if XK6 browser wasn't sort of available yet, could you have achieved the same sort of outcome just by using our K6, core, by running it on a protocol level and then integrating that with Faro, or will the results be like really different?
No, not at all. So, I mean, what I would have needed was like people who actually click through the UI, because you really need to interact with the UI, with what happens in the browser to collect browser metrics, and on a protocol-based or with a protocol-based test, just as with the standard K6 core. You just don't hit the browser. It really starts at the services in the backend, where even the front end service that provides the data for the browser.
Yeah, and I guess it's part of one of those disadvantages of just really testing via the protocol level. We wouldn't be able to catch like specific browser errors, like I mean, unless, like you said, we manually just interact with the browser, then yeah. But what if we want something more automated, like I guess more deterministic as well, then yeah, we definitely would require a browser-based tool.
Yeah, it's really like if you want to do monitoring and you add that browser part as to your monitoring stack, because you want to know what's going on in your browsers or the users' browsers, then you also need and want to test the same thing on a testing level. It's not only the protocol level, but also the browser level. So it has the same use. You want to, or that's for me, load testing is a way of catching errors, issues, user experience issues, especially in the browser world, before it actually hits production or actual users. So if you want to do browser monitoring, you also need browser load testing or browser testing.
Yeah. Any follow-up questions from your side, Paul?
I'm just like demo.
Yeah.
Demo.
Woo. Yeah, I think we can spend the rest of our time, because I think in terms of the demo, you're gonna show quite a few different parts. I know there will be cats as well, so yeah. Let's just get started with the demo.
I locked my 2 cats out of the door, but it's like 6 p.m. here in Austria, and 6:30 is their feeding time. So I can already hear them scratching at the door.
Yeah, hurry up.
Now with Leandro, his cats usually make appearances on video a lot of times. So,
Typically
always,
mine too, but this is a new situation. I've never been in the K6 office hours. I want to make a good impression and not add some randomness.
All right.
Especially not before feeding time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the login page. It's not a login page. It's really just a way to assign a username to my cool demo application. And actually, everyone can visit it right now. It's live, and I encourage you to follow the steps or just click around and do something and try to break it. The password is admin. It's described here. And it's, as I said, not a real password. It's really just to assign a username here and to get a name here. As you can see, I have set my name to Stefan. I have 4 products in the shopping cart, and I'll just click around. You can play with the UI and stuff like that. I can also open the developer settings, developer tools to see what's going on in the browser. And you can see if I click big products, then JavaScript function do something cool, which is not defined, is called. And that's one example of things that would not be propagated to the backend, because a user clicks on this button, it didn't call any action because the JavaScript function is just not defined. I can then go to the shopping cart, check out and pay, and I've successfully checked out. That's part of the whole user experience, and I hope that a lot of you will be clicking around and producing errors, because now what we want to do with this is to actually go into this monitoring dashboard. As I can see, there were like 0.6 requests in the past minute. So a few of you have actually clicked around and produced a total of 3 exceptions. So this is just like a really holistic and complete overview of the whole web shop. Here is the backend, the endpoint health, and the 4 golden signals. This is not really relevant to us today because we're talking about the browser part. But what you can see here is the whole web shop contains a database, a web shop DB, that's MariaDB. It contains a shopping cart service, a product service, and this is the actual web shop front end. And what I call here web shop front end is the browser part of this front end. So you have really, if you wouldn't use Faro, you would be blind starting here on the right side. So Faro really adds the visibility here to the left side and collects these web vitals that we discussed briefly, or we discussed 3 of those briefly, the CLS, LCP, and FID. As I said, they all mean things like how fast does the biggest part of the page load, how fast does the first byte load, how interactive is the page, and so on. And let's refresh. 6 exceptions. So there's actually a few users clicking around and running into my issues that I purposely added. So I can drill down on this now, and I see like a time overview about these web vitals. Obviously, let's go back to the last 5 minutes when I started clicking around. You see the performance impact, and you see, some people found the do something cool is not defined. And one of us users just got an error code, Happy New Year. Well, congratulations. Is there a prize for that? Oh, Marie.
That was me.
Yeah, Marie. And you're using a Chrome browser version 109. Very, very interesting. So now I can take that information and can compare it, like if I had much more data than just a few clicks, to compare it to, is this something that is really related to the browser? Where did the user click to actually create this error, and so on? So that's really something this is the information. Everything on this dashboard is information that you wouldn't have if you wouldn't instrument your browser or your users' browsers. Now, if I go here, so the exceptions are basically logs, error logs. These are metrics. And the tracing part that also creates this part here in the webshop frontend, I think tracing was part of the last session of this the office hours before Christmas, right?
Might have
Or
been
was it-
disrupted.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's been recent.
It's maybe maybe in December or something like this. But the main point is I don't need to explain traces because people can go back and watch the recording of the. I know someone of the Tempo team was there and explained traces. So anyway, the tracing part is I can go there and view the traces of the front end, or that were initiated in the front end, and I can really follow the trace end to end from like where it was created. The HTTP post was set in the browser. It hit the HTTP post hit this web shop, the Python application, the Python Flask application. The web shop service went to the product service to do a select statement in the database. And the actual select statement can be seen even here to MariaDB. Went back to the web shop, to the shopping cart, and so on. So you can really see and follow the trace from the browser to the database and back. Yeah, and that's basically the overview I wanted to give about the product. Obviously, if you want to know how it works and if there are any questions, I don't know how this usually works here. I can show you other specific parts, or if you have any questions, Paul and Marie, then I can go into more details into one or other parts.
Yeah. Not a question, but like just a comment. Like, this is really great stuff, because especially the browser side. So at the moment, with XK6 browser, we only support Chromium based, but like in the future, like one of our long term goal is to also support other browsers. So that will really make it well integrated to check which browser has like issues, because like some issues might be like browser specific, and having it displayed, for example, as to which browser had the issue, what was the exception. I think that's going to be really useful.
Yeah, no, it's definitely giving a visibility on the dark side of the moon, right? That's kind of with this. That's really impressive.
And I mean, the thing is now we have some users, hopefully some of the viewers, you, Marie, Paul, I clicked around. But if you, and that's the cool thing about XK6 browser, if you don't want to let your users test the software, I could just go ahead and run this is the script I'm going to run, and run my Kitty test. It contains like 10 virtual users that go only protocol based on the backend to stress test the backend. I mean, 10 users won't stress test it, but just as an example. And one virtual user that does the browser iterations. And I configured it to run exactly for 1 minute. So if I run this, you see it goes to Meows and Loki, it puts it in the shopping cart, goes to the shopping cart, does something, presses the checkout button, and then repeats this as often as possible in this 1 minute. So when you see what's happening, the window will soon open again. When you see what's happening, it's I'm running the backend scenario and the front-end scenario with 10 users. Thanks. 10 virtual users, 1 virtual user in parallel for 1 minute. And getting this was the verbose stuff I was talking about. These
Yeah.
uncode browser things.
Yeah.
But you're getting feedback, and when the minute is over of the browser test, then I get a lot of output. Probably the listeners are really familiar with XK6 browser already, but they get also some kind of metrics that are similar to the web vitals we were talking about, and some other stuff that are browser specific. As you can see, the front-end scenario is done, and we're waiting for the last run of the backend scenario, and here we go. So here is like everything that's been going on, and then we get here browser-specific metrics. So first, contentful paint is the FCP. So I think this is also one of those metrics that I showed here. Let me go back. FCP. First, the browser first paint is not something that we collect with Faro, and the browser first meaningful paint, I also don't think so. It's also something we could collect, of course, but these 5 are very important and very meaningful already. And I think when I talked to Marie yesterday, she also mentioned that you want to add some more here in the testing overview, if I'm correct, right?
Yeah, so just to give more context around that, we do have an issue to support, the Web Vital metrics as well. So one of our developers is looking into it. He's, made like a POC already. So what we want is, I guess, for it to be aligned with the standard core, metrics out there. And this would mean as well that when users integrate XK6 browser with Faro, then they won't be confused as to, oh, why are the metrics a bit like different from XK6 browser compared to what Faro reports. So yeah, in one of our issue, we've noted that we need to support the core web vital metrics as well. So hopefully in the future releases, that will come as well.
Cool.
Can I just like quickly just make an observation? So it's really interesting that when you did this demo, you didn't just do, for example, 10 browser virtual users. So you only selected, one browser virtual user and then 10 virtual users running it on the protocol level. So at here at K6, what we've been like saying to most of our users, and we've got an amazing guide that Nicole has written in terms of the up-to-date guide for load testing, and one of the section around there was this concept of hybrid like performance testing, and it's really nice to see it in action where we've got 2 scenarios that are running in parallel. You don't have to, spin up like 10 browser virtual users in parallel just to see the exceptions happening, because, just having one, it would like, catch some issues already. But you can still, try to do the load test on your protocol level at the same time. So it's a really nice, I guess, balanced approach to this hybrid performance testing. Because if we just spin up like 10 or more browsers, then the script is really slow. It's quite resource intensive, and yeah, I think you've demonstrated it quite well that we can catch issues just by using one browser user.
Yeah, no, I'm just following the best practices. So I'm an expert, of course. No, yeah, I've been just implementing this based on the best practices that I've found on the very excellent K6 documentation. And to be honest, the Grafana documentation needs also to be as good as the K6 documentation, because it's for someone coming from the Grafana side, it's really easy to get started with K6 because the documentation is so good.
That's good.
We have to give this feedback to the rest of K6 team, to Matt as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if we didn't tell them already, I'm pretty sure, I hope I did, then you definitely should also tell them, because it's a really excellent documentation.
Awesome. Yeah, they'll be glad to hear that. Yeah, and everybody really does strive for that. So that's good. That good feedback. Thank you.
Cool.
If
Um,
anyone, I guess, for example, if they want to try out this project locally, because you got, the app itself, and then you've got this Grafana dashboard. If someone wants to play around with it, is there a, GitHub repo? Is there a project that you can quickly just share with us?
Yep, I actually prepared one tab to show the Faro SDK. It's just really adding some minimal code here. So basically, you import something from the Grafana Faro SDK, and that will give you the web vitals and the logs, error logging capabilities. And then it separated, the Faro team separated these two things. Faro web tracing is based on the OpenTelemetry browser tracing, because it's quite heavyweight and some people might not need or want to do the tracing, but the web vitals and logs. So for this demo, both is integrated. You just initialize it, show the configured endpoint. As I said, the endpoint is the second part of the Faro project. And the main point of this is actually to answer your question. Yes, I have it in my public GitHub repository, where you can run this yourself. I hope I have documented it well enough. I've drawn some architecture pictures about what's happening in the background. Everything, Mimir, Loki, Tempo, Grafana, the Grafana agent, everything is basically included. So it's quite a huge Docker compose. And it takes quite a long time to spin it up, downloading all of those images. But the cool thing is it's a really complete thing, and I'm using it a lot for my own demos with my prospects and customers, because I haven't only used it for Faro and x86 browser, but for many other things to show metrics logs and traces correlation. And I've also added some issues on purpose to show proxy timeouts and stuff like that. But you can also do what I showed you, just to get into Faro a little bit, by running that script that does a Docker Compose up with your domain or localhost. And if you try this and run into issues, don't hesitate to create an issue or let me know. And even if you like it or if you have success, happy to hear about that. And always love to get positive feedback as well.
Yeah, I can attest to the size of that and the thoroughness of that Docker Compose file. I mean, it really does include everything in the kitchen sink. So it's a it's a comprehensive example. It's great, and not to mention you can see little pictures of kitties and things like that, and
Yeah, you don't need to run it. I added a screenshot for those who just want to see the cats.
see the cats. There you go. Put everyone in their happy place.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice, yeah. I guess as well, I just wanna just quickly just share. So I know from Grafana side, they've written this awesome introductory blog post as to what Grafana Faro is. So if you just want to read more about it, just check out this really introductory tool. They've got this video tutorial as well, like an introductory video on what the dashboard looks like, and it just, I guess, like documents it a bit in terms of how to actually use it. And then from XK6 browser side, we've also updated our Get Started guide with XK6 browser. So I think the first time we published this was around, I can't remember, like November 2021 or something like that. I don't know, Paul, if you remember.
Oh, that was pre-Paul. I wasn't even here yet.
Yeah, it might be that. But yeah, so we had an introductory blog post that our CEO Robin has written, but we've created an up to date guide because there's been a few changes. So you're also free to check this out, and we've also written a section here about this hybrid approach to performance testing that we briefly talked about a while ago. So yeah, just check out our documents.
I don't know how much time we still have, but I've just read the comments on the right side, and one of the viewers said, "What is a trace?" So apparently they didn't watch the previous episode, and then they said, "Aha, nice! I see the hosts are paying attention." So I am paying attention. And I just want to answer it quickly so that people don't need to watch the whole last episode. So if you can get back my screen on, then
Yeah,
just walk me through the trace.
We're both trying to do it at the same time. Oops.
Cool. So a trace is basically you follow a request. Like a log basically is just a single application that logs something for the single application or for a single service. For example, if you have a web shop service, this web shop service creates logs of this service, and the product service creates logs of that service, and the shopping cart service creates logs of that service. So it's a very service-focused view. A trace, on the other hand, is a very holistic view of a single request. So when a request comes into the web shop, in this case the backend, because it's probably was a trace that didn't go through the browser, so we only used K6. It was just the protocol-based part of K6 that created this trace. So it's one request that enters the web shop. And then you see how long it took end to end. It took about 45 milliseconds end to end. And what happened in these 45 milliseconds? In these 45 milliseconds, you see it called the shop endpoint. Then it called another get to the it does a get request to the product service, and the product service goes to the database. Basically, what I've shown previously. That is a trace end to end, and seeing how long it takes until this request to the database comes back to the web shop. And then the next step of the web shop, the shopping cart service, is called with another select statement to the database, comes back, and then completes the whole trace with each of these spans. So one line here is a span, and an entire trace is the collection of all the spans of this single request as it propagates through the whole application of services.
That's a good description, and I'm glad you did bring that up though. But I'll let you in on the little joke. Is that the person that asked that question? That's Daniel. He was the one on that particular discussion about tempo. He's actually one of the tempo maintainers. So
I just explained I just explained this to the real expert then.
No, it's all good.
Thanks,
That's actually a great
me.
thing. That's actually a great thing though to bring up though, honestly, to show that difference. So no, but thank you for that.
Andrew, our senior performer, has created this really nice, nice explanation of what traces are. So traces are indications that tell you that the chocolate ones are from Hansel and the vanilla ones are from Gretel in order they were walking through the forest. So that's
It's-
a great inspiration from Leandro. I just wanted to point because I think I've missed some of the comments as well. But let's say, someone is still not like fully convinced about just running one virtual user like on the browser level, like that they really have to run, like more than 10 or something. So again, Leandro pointed out that, yeah, clearing performance issues for one user clears about 80% of them without getting into load. So yep, I think this is a really important like fact that we need to share to our community, so that we you don't have to necessarily spin up a lot of browsers if this is the goal that you want to achieve. So thank you, Leandro, for pointing that out. Cool. We're 5 minutes. We still have 5 minutes.
oh. So how was your day?
How was this for your office hours episode, Stefan?
I mean, I am honored to be part of it. So I was really happy when you asked me. I think in beginning of December, when I actually created the video about Faro and XK6 browser, because I think I probably wasn't the first one, but I think I was the first one who created a video about it, public one. So it was the first one to combine those two things, Faro and XK6 browser. XK6 browser is a long name, by the way. XK6 browser is quite a bit like older than Faro. Faro was just released in October, so
Yeah.
It took me some while to play around with those two things, combine it, and then Marie reached out to me, and I was really honored because I didn't think that it would be like a big thing, but I hope that it can show how to connect the browser parts of both worlds, load testing and observability.
Yeah. And not to mention what you said too before about, just kind of in Grafana in general about dog fooding is kind of a big thing. So that's really awesome that you took that initiative to utilize XK6 browser, which is kind of a long name. No, I'm just kidding. But but no, that's awesome though, that you did take that initiative. So, and to write that up. So that's a big deal. So yeah. Kudos, well deserved.
As I said, I'm the one who's honored to be here, and now I have the pressure to build new cool stuff, including K6, so that I'm invited again.
Because you do have all the answers, so
I have established that.
Oh, here Nicole is asking a questionnaire about any further integration to do.
I think that's too soon to ask. I just know that a few of my colleagues have already reused my demo to show it to their prospects in their specific geographic regions. And everyone is just super, super excited about it. Like both the Faro and XK6 browser, and also especially the combination. But I think since the product is not really, we don't have a GA yet for Faro or a product around that. There's a private beta going on currently with Grafana Cloud. And I think once we have worked that through, and the product manager of Faro, and that it's through that, and we have had more custom interactions, then I can also say what I want. Because as I said, I'm part of the voice, not the only voice, but part of the voice of the custom into our organization.
Well, that's awesome. I'm probably going to try to take that and then demo it locally as well for some meetups.
There's a follow-up question from Nicole.
Very cool.
When is the Faro team coming over to the K6 side?
I mean,
we're hiring.
You're asking me those questions as if I were the Faro team. The Faro team is I mean, I'm just like not even between. I would neither say above, between, beneath. I don't know. I'm just a solutions engineer. I know everything.
You take the Lego pieces and put them together. So
Yeah. Wow, nice. Thanks. I'll use that instead of expert next time.
I guess as well, like it's like a race as to who's gonna go like the private beta first to the cloud. Is it Faro? Is it K6 browser? So we'll see like in the future. Yeah. Cool.
Absolutely.
Then yeah, I think yeah, we've done really well for the first office hours episode of this year. And Stefan, again, we just want to say thank you for being with us, for showing that really awesome demo, and for explaining to us, what Faro is, what browser instrumentation is, and what a trace is as well. So hopefully we're gonna be back again next time with a different episode. But yeah, I hope everyone learned something new today.
I know
Thank
I
you so
have.
much. It was a pleasure.
Yeah. All right.
Thank
Thank you all. Bye bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye.